So I figured I'll do the same thing. So I shut my briefcase. It was one of those kind with the mechanisms that have a combination lock. And I shut it. You know where this is going. And so I leaned over, and I go to get up too, except for one thing. I forgot to get my tie at the demon-like grip of my briefcase. So there I am. My briefcase is hanging from my tie. Now I'm being hung corporate style. I'm choking, and Mr. Big is sort of like this. And I went on to read the email that would change not only that weekend, but the weeks and months ahead. It went something like this. We have valued our relationship with your organization over the last 8 years and appreciate the excellent service you have provided. Time out. If any of you have watched American Idol, that's the equivalent of Paula Abdul, the most empathetic judge, right? After a contestant has just sung her song, saying, you know, you look great in that outfit tonight, honey. For sure, she's going to be singing her farewell song the next night, right, and off the show. And so this email went on to say, we have, however, decided to change direction, and we are exercising our 30-day right to cancel with your organization. What? Excuse me? How in the world could this have happened? I mean, did I mention that we had just signed a 5-year deal 3 months earlier for $10.5 million with this major university that was an account of ours for 8 years? And they were elated with our service. And so I wound the clock back about 3 months, and it was like, you know, when you're putting a jigsaw puzzle together, looking for those last few pieces. And they come together, and there's a complete picture for the first time. We had broken the customer's trust. And I'd like to share a quick story about how self-orientation can cut 2 different ways. The most obvious way is the cocky salesperson who is in fact out for making his quota and making his numbers. But there's another side to it, and I use my own example. When I was in Baltimore, I tried to get USF&G as a prospect, and I got it. And one day, by some miracle, I got an appointment with the chief financial officer. Now, I was in my mid-20s. I didn't know really what I was doing. But somehow I got this appointment. And I pumped my fist in the air, and I went down the hall, told my manager, and before too long, the regional vice president had invited himself on that call with me. Now, this is not a good thing, because he's another person who did not view himself as Mr. Congeniality. And he intimidated me, quite frankly. His name is Mr. Brooks, we'll call him. And so Mr. Brooks said that I need to pick him up at 8 o'clock the morning of the call. Regardless of that, I was determined to be a rock star with this thing. So I went out, I got the money tie, the A-game suit, got my shoes shined, called corporate headquarters, this is Standard Register back in Dayton, Ohio, and got all the latest brochures and marketing collateral I could and stuffed my briefcase with it. Well, the morning of the call, he got in the car and he started to ask me these questions. Who are they currently buying from? How much do they spend? Do they have an in-house print shop? I thought to myself, I don't know. I should know. You idiot. But I didn't say that. I said, I think more business forms and maybe $500,000 to $600,000 a year, and yeah, I think they have an in-house print shop. Each answer became less and less convincing to him, I'm sure. By the time we got to the appointment, I slithered out of my side of the car. We went up the elevator, got to the 5th floor, and they had these plush carpets and this leather, you know, it was very intimidating for me. I was sitting next to him, I was very uncomfortable. So I opened my briefcase to kill some time, waiting for Mr. Big to come out of his door. So I'm looking through the brochures, and finally the door turns, he comes out, I notice out of the corner of my eye, Mr. Brooks is standing up to greet him. So I figured I'll do the same thing. So I shut my briefcase. It was one of those kind with the mechanisms that have a combination lock, and I shut it, you know where this is going. And so I leaned over, and I go to get up too, except for one thing. I forgot to get my tie at the demon-like grip of my briefcase. So there I am, my briefcase is hanging from my tie. Now I'm being hung corporate style. I'm choking, and Mr. Big is sort of like this. So there I am. I've got this briefcase. I'm not worried about being embarrassed anymore. That's the good news. I'm worried about losing consciousness. And so I look down, and I've got the combination numbers. Pop open the right one, the left one, nothing's happening. What happened? It spun. So now I've got to remember what the combination is. So I remembered it, I moved it, finally I popped it open. That was the good news. The bad news is it released, and all the contents went out onto Mr. Big's feet. That was not just a bad call, that was a nightmare. And it was true. And I don't know what happened after that. I blacked out the rest of the call. But I can tell you, we did not win the USF&G account. And it's interesting, the lesson I learned was that trust cuts, or self-orientation cuts two different ways. One is that obvious reach into your back wallet side, and the other side is being so focused on yourself, and this happens a lot when we go to give presentations, that we forget to think about what is of value to the customer, what is important to them, what can I do to be of service to them, and put the focus back on them. That's the other side of self-orientation. The trust isn't just one of these touchy-feely concepts, but it's hard, it's real, and it's quantifiable. And in this case, it's quantifiable to the tune of $10.5 million. While most contemporary sales thought today talks about tips, tricks, techniques, and things that sellers can do to get buyers to buy, think about it for a minute from the buyer's vantage point. How would you feel if someone was doing tricks on you? And don't think they don't see it coming a mile away. They go to seminars just like this one, right? The second thing is, I'm not advocating that we don't have a way to track and measure sales performance. We need to, that's important. But too many selling organizations get overly focused on sales methodology. Sales methodology essentially saying if you do A and then B and then C, you'll end up with success. And for my 25 years in sales and sales management, I learned that it's more than just the methodology, but the importance of building relationships, and particularly those relationships built on trust.